Hello, everybody. It's me, Ross, and welcome back to another edition of the Kings of Anglia Fan Social. This week, I'm joined by good old Dan, who's making his return from injury, good old John Watson, and Dazza, as we discuss all things town ahead of this Easter weekend fixtures. I've eaten 2 Easter eggs already. I'm a big man in terms of eating Easter eggs. I love my Easter eggs. I'm going to eat probably more over the weekend, I'm sure. But enough of that. Let's bring in Dan, making his return from his injury layoff. But it's great to have you back, my friend. How are you?
Yeah, all good. All good, thanks, lads. Been a very interesting season. Been fun listening and watching you guys carry on, and looking forward to tonight.
Indeed, it's always a pleasure to have you back on the show, my friend. And the man making his return after a few weeks, maybe even a month out. Just been chilling. He's been busy man. It is good old John Watson. How are you, my friend?
Yeah, not bad. Thanks, Ross. Thanks for having me back on. It's good to be on with Dan and Dazza, two pies. Always good. It's always good to be in fine company. And so I feel very privileged to be here. Looking forward to having a chat. And I'm looking forward to being at the Rotherham game and the Wigan game, which is cool for me, having 2 games in a row. That doesn't happen too often. So, yeah, that's all good. School Easter holidays, which is even better. So, yeah, other than a bit of a cold, doing great. Thanks, mate.
It's a pleasure to have you on, my friend. I'm sure a lot of listeners are very happy to hear your doses tones. And Dazza also, I'm sure, is pleased to be on the same podcast with John as well. Because I know you're very good pals, aka the two pies catchphrase, which is brought on. But how are you, Dazza?
Yeah, I'm very good, thanks. Very good, very good. I mean, I'm not. Yeah, it's. Yeah, you're right. John did christen me 2 pies after. I'm just a very enthusiastic pie man. That's all I'd say, really. It's part of a day when you go to a game. But yeah, down to 1 pie at the moment. I'm just watching the waistline, getting my summer body ready. You know, so yeah, just leaving the carbs alone at the minute. But yes, delighted to be back on here, and let's have a chat about Ipswich.
Yes, indeed. Well, we're not going to muck about. Let's get right into it then. And on the weekend, it was another 2 points dropped, and the season is over, really. And it's time to talk about the sliding doors moments from both Dan, John, and Dazza on where it sort of was your deciding moment where you thought this wasn't going to be a season we get out of League One. It will be 4th season in League One going in under Kieran McKenna. Dan, when would you say was the sliding doors moment where you felt this season wasn't going to be as rosy as we were hoping it was going to be?
Yeah, I think there's been a few moments this season where I've been a bit like, I think we might not go up. I think for me, the final nail in the coffin was at Oxford, when unfortunately, after kind of dominating that game so comfortably against a playoff rival and on the verge of get a great win, that injury time goal deep down was kind of the moment when I thought, that's it. It's too much now. I think, but that's been a trend of us, isn't it, for a few seasons. I won't go into it too much, but we can't get the second goal. We always leave ourselves a bit exposed. But I think the Bolton home defeat was a little bit of an eye-opener, a bit of a shock result when they thumped us at Portman Road 5-2. I think that was the result. It's like, yeah, this isn't going to be exactly a cakewalk. And I think looking back fairly recently, and it was the kind of, the 0-0s, well, the 1-1 at Morecambe, where it's just like, was just such by far the better team. We didn't win, and then followed that up with, the Pompey 0-0 and that kind of disallowed goal where for a fleeting second the crowd went mental, the hopes went up, to be denied by a linesman's flag. And I think it was the 0-0 against Cheltenham again, where it was those little moments which were interjected with fantastic moments this season, but we haven't been particularly consistent. And I just think, I think for me it was Oxford. So, I think the pressure's off in some ways on us this season. Now, in these last 4 games, we just have to get our heads around the fact that we are here for another season. And I think that's what's going to make the end of the season actually quite interesting in a lot of ways. But, I think to finish on this point, the trend. It's a positive trend under McKenna. You know, he hasn't been here too long, and the time he's been here has more or less been really positive. So we just need to take that on and take it into next season.
Indeed, and we've got a chance to ruin some parties. You know, we've got Rotherham on Saturday, and then we've got Wigan on Tuesday night. We could, you know, make a big statement trying to beat those two sides just to finish the season strong, as you said. John, over to you then. You're always a positive man, but when was the moment where you realised it's going to be League One football once again for Town under Kieran McKenna?
I guess that final thought, what was it, the final thought? The one where I spoke to you afterwards, where I said, I think we've just watched our playoff hopes go, was the 1-1 at Morecambe. I think me and Dazza were standing together at that game with Lewis, and we enjoyed that game. And we just battered them, really. We were the best. We played pretty well. Lots of good open play. Didn't quite have as many chances as we won, but didn't take the chances. And it just felt like, oh, we should have won that game. And, you know, you can't, whilst it was still an away point and a good performance, they're the ones that kind of, I remember just going, oh, it's fallen away. However, then we got on a really good run after that, and hopes were kind of reignited, really. But I remember feeling flat. We weren't going to be good enough. And in the end, that's proven to be the case. But you can look back and even, you know, I missed the first game of the season, but my first game of the season was at Burton away, which was middle of August, 14th of August, something like that.
It was a few games. I was there.
Yeah, and there was the famous GIF of me, Darren, and Bainsy. But when there was a missed penalty, you know, Scott Fraser. And then Eduardo came on and looked like a different class, didn't he? And hit the bar from a long range. And the fine margins in that game, in some ways, that could be the sliding doors moment, because if we had scored that penalty, we would have got something from that game, and we ended up then conceding and not, you know, we played pretty well that game. Did Dobra and Barry start that game? That's how good it was. So you can look back and think, that stands in my mind. And as a lad from Sunderland away just kind of typically sums up us. Again, we played pretty well. First half, we were the better side again, and we go with the stadium light year on year and often do that. And so what was that, last weekend of November, first weekend of December, whenever that was?
It was cold.
Yeah, very cold. But then you think, one of those games that you think, if we were to win the league, if we were to go up automatically, we would have taken something from that game. So 3 very different points in the season for me there. But I guess that I could mention the Bolton away. I could mention Accrington away, because that was a depressing game back in October, was it? And you can. There's 5 games I mentioned. So that shows the inconsistency, because there's 5 games where I think we should have got things from that game, or 3 points rather than the 1 point, or 1 point rather than the 0 points. And that kind of sums up the frustration of the season, I suppose. We do some things quite well, and then not quite good enough. And that's why we're 9th, possibly going to push up to 8th or 7th, depending. But realistically, we all know that the playoff hopes have gone. So, that sliding doors moment of what could have been. It's like looking through the glass doors, isn't it? Because you can see we're nearly there, but not quite clinical enough.
Indeed, and Dazza has been the fine margins, and just killing those games off the last few weeks, few months has just been like we've been controlling games, dominating games, but just not killing the games off. Would you say that's one of the sliding doors moments? And bring your own take on it as well.
Yeah, I mean, Dan and John have covered the first 44 games we played this season, so there's not many games left for me to mention. But for me, probably the biggest moment was what John mentioned. I've made a few notes, but I think Sunderland away, that was a game we should have won, drawn at the very least. And that was off the back of, that was a couple of games after us thrashing Wickham. And I think we drew the next game. And then going to Sunderland, who I think was second at the time, if we'd have won that game, then I think that fills the players with confidence. We're on a good run. all of that forward momentum and all those words we use in football. But if we'd have won that game, I think the season would have been very different from that point onwards. But losing that game in that manner, we then followed that up with a load of losses and draws, and then Cook gets sacked. So, and Cheltenham and Morecambe, those draws, we were on obviously McKenna comes in, fantastic response from the players ever since he came in. And then we get to that point where we can see the playoff spots now. Let's go and get some wins from two teams who were bottom of the league, and we draw both of them. If you look at the table now and think, okay, whack another 4 points on those, with them we're almost there, but not now, not at this stage of the season. So, yeah, Sunderland away, big turning point for me now that I look back on the whole season. So, yes.
And we've not been scoring enough goals, of course. We've not had that. Our strikers have not been scoring goals. We've been creating chances, but just, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, after the start that Bon had made, if you'd now said at the end of the season, he's not going to score in the next, whatever it is now, 24, 25 games, we wouldn't have believed it. One of my friends is a Charlton fan, and he told me, he predicted this. He said, don't you wait, he'll frustrate you and he'll need 10 chances to score. So, obviously he was proved very wrong at the start of the season because Bon was on fire and just absolutely fantastic. But, it's not quite worked for him the last second of the season. So, more goals needed.
Yeah, indeed. And Dan, I want to quickly just bring up that we haven't really gone on to win 3 games in a row. I'm just looking back at some of the results. We've seen back-to-back wins. We've seen, that unbelievable run with Kieran McKenna, but I feel like we've not had that run of like dominating games and being 3 wins in a row, 4 wins in a row. It's been one of those where if we had that run, we may have got that chance in the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, we just haven't been good enough. We haven't been clinical enough, really. It's a shame. We've got some fantastic individuals. And every week you hear opposition managers talk about how good our squad is and our budget and who we brought in. Obviously, there's a bit of kidology going on there, deflecting away from their own performances. But as a team, we probably just haven't been clinical enough. Cook, it was a bit streaky, wasn't it? Even when we got on, it was a bit of a roller coaster. It's not really a roller coaster with McKenna. I feel like there's just more of a kind of gradual upward trajectory with the odd deviance until he gets, more time under his belt. So, but, it's not like I'm not one of these fans that is, I think 9th is a pretty fair reflection of us. I don't think we've been particularly unlucky. I don't think we can, it's just we haven't been good enough. And we'll come on to speak to it later, but you hear about teams going on the beach at this stage of the season. But I think with a newish manager, I don't think there's much danger of that with us. I think after what he said after Shrewsbury with these players, we have a massive opportunity to send out a really, really big message at Easter, if, potentially. So we got to be positive and we got to attack it and maybe, be brilliant if we can get three wins to kick off the start of next season.
Indeed. I'm sorry to bring up this horrible stat. I was going to wait until the end of the season, when we get to the look ahead to Rotherham and Wigan, but I'm looking at this horrible stat on TV. Of course, we're on Sky this weekend. We've won 3 of the last 34 games on TV. It's a horrible stat, and hopefully we won't be too afraid of that when we do play Rotherham on Sky this Saturday. But we'll get into, of course, looking ahead to those 2 games in due course. But let's talk about the next feature on the podcast. And he's actually going to do the strike, actually. I've decided we're going to do a strike just to mix up a little bit. Because why not? Let's bring it in. We have got other features we'll bring you, but I thought, why not? Let's bring the strike in early doors. It is going to be Dan, John, and Dazza going face-to-face to win the strike crown. And funny enough, Dan and John have history because they faced off in the strike invitational final. So that was in the summer. So,
wow.
Dazza, you got
some... Do I get like in golf, can I have a handicap? Can I get like a 2-point start then? Yeah.
So
Thanks,
Dan
Ross.
and John. Yeah.
2 points. 2 points.
2 points. 2 points. Okay. Well, let's get right into it then. So this will be mixture of Rotherham, Wigan, and also birthday questions because a few people had their birthday or are having their birthday soon. So the first question is a Rotherham question, and it's on Daryl Murphy. He scored a hat-trick against Rotherham in the 5-2 win in 2015. Now, who set up two of Daryl Murphy's goals against Rotherham in that game? Was it Tommy Smith, Luke Chambers, or Jonas Knudsen? Hopefully this question makes sense. So he scored a hat-trick, but who set up two of the goals of his hat-trick? Does that make sense? Sort of? Yeah. So who was it? Was it? And as you can see, there's all defenders. When I was doing the research for this, and when I saw...
Well, the obvious
defenders,
one's Knudsen.
Mm-hmm. Remember, Luke Chambers played at right back, of course, back then.
Yeah, so, he did. And he's a very good crosser of the ball.
Yeah, was it Tommy Smith, Luke Chambers, for Jonas Knudsen? Of course, play at home. Let us know how you get on. Okay, everyone ready?
Yep.
Take it away. Chambers.
Knudsen.
Chambers. Now, you're all wrong because it's actually Tommy Smith. Tommy Smith.
Jesus.
Tommy Smith. Luke Chambers got the other assist for for his hat-trick. But yeah, it was Tommy Smith who got 2 assists that game. So there we go.
I on that game, Ross, so I should have known that. I also had a few quid on the Darren Murphy hat-trick. So when he scored it, I was jumping up and down. I think I had maybe like 3 quid or 2 quid on a Darren Murphy hat-trick. And I got 125 quid or 130 quid. I remember as that goal went in, I was jumping up and down, going mental. And everybody was like, calm down. I was like, no, just won.
Yeah.
I've got a slightly different story to that. That's for all you young listeners out there. That is the perils of starting drinking on a Saturday at 8 o'clock in the morning at King's Cross Station. Because I got all the way to Rotherham, a few of us, and we'd all had a bit too much. And the game had kicked off. And I didn't know the final score until the train home back to London, where for some reason I bumped into Jonathan Douglas in first class.
Yeah.
And he wasn't, and I missed that, and people still gone about what a brilliant result that was.
He scored in that game as well, Jonathan Douglas.
Did he?
Scored a picture of a goal in that game. Scored a really good goal.
Collectible that, yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, because he didn't score many goals, Jonathan Douglas. The next question isn't on Jonathan Douglas, but it is a question on a player that what could have been. He had a few moments. He celebrates his birthday, which we don't actually know his real age because of obvious reason. It is Finidi George. Now, he had an amazing debut against Derby in 2001, but who set up his first town goal in that game? Was it Jamie Clapham, Matt Holland, or Marcus Stewart? But yeah, he scored twice in this game. Great Portman Road debut. Well, probably one of the best Portman Road debuts you'll ever see. Of course, Grant Ward's Portman Road debut was good because he scored a hat-trick. But yeah, Finidi George.
Isn't he about 106 years old?
Something like that, yeah. Would you get your quick thoughts on you guys? Did you like Finidi George as a player? How would you explain?
No, he for me was one of the reasons we got relegated. Because we built this whole squad on these young, hungry players and then superstar Finidi George comes on, probably on more money than everybody else. He could probably manage 30 minutes and then he was knackered. And he didn't pass. So, him and Andy Marshall. I mean, Andy Marshall is the reason we got relegated. So, but Finidi George is a very close second. In my very unbiased, opinion.
You got to throw Matteo Sereni into that as well. Because it's his fault that he asked to be dropped in the FA Cup match.
Yeah.
For me, we went away from our principles. Like you had players like Jermaine Wright, who just earned his right to be in the team. And then we had players like Finidi George arrive who didn't have the same oomph and guts and desire to play for a and it's interesting to listen to George Burley because Burley talks about Finidi George wasn't a problem and he doesn't see him as being an issue. But for lots of us fans, I think it changed that really tight dynamic of the team.
I agree.
Yeah.
What's the answer then, Ross?
What's your option? What did you say? So Jamie Clapham, Matt Holland, and Marcus Stewart. Matt Holland. Clapham.
No, it's from the right wing, so it wasn't Clapham.
No. It was Matt Holland. So 1-1-0. But Dan, it's fine. You've still got a few questions to get back into it. And the next question is on good old Matt Holland. Of course, he had his birthday on Monday. He made his debut in a goalless draw, but who was it against in 1997? Was it Sheffield United, QPR, or Birmingham City? And I haven't done a comma in Birmingham City and QPR. Let me just change that quickly. Don't like to see that. Let me just quickly change that. Not a comma there. Just there we go. Bring up that. For people watching on video, I always want to make sure it looks good, presents well. But yeah, 0-0 draw on his debut. There we go.
Still my all-time favourite Ipswich player.
Yeah, I think Sam Morsey's showing the traits of a good captain and a player who can go forward and stuff. Because Matt Holland was that one. He just
doesn't have his cheekbones though, does he, Ross?
No, he doesn't. No, yeah, he still looks.
Morsey's got a few more bookings under his belt than Matt Holland.
Yeah. Matt Holland's, that record of consecutive games is just unreal. Unfortunately, Sam Morsey does get suspended, and of course, got sent off for a reason that was disappointing. But yeah, who was it against then on his debut? Birmingham.
Sheffield
United. Birmingham. You're all wrong. It's QPR. It's not going well this week. Definitely not. So it is 1-1.
Like Ipswich Town performance. We've created all the chances, Ross, and then we're not taking any of the rowing.
Not taken.
We are Ipswich this season.
Pretty much. All right, and question 4, and it is on Will Keane. Daz had jokingly said, is there going to be a question on Will Keane? Because he knows how the strike sort of comes together. And if you did your research, you may have got this right. But yeah, how many goals did Will Keane score in 41 games for Town? And this is the final question before we get into our tiebreaker. So Dan, if you get it bang on, Dan, you get 2 points. And actually, if any of you get it bang on, you get 2 points. And then we'll go to the tiebreaker to gamble it anyway, because we're all going to gamble, aren't we? Don't mind losing out if you gamble. But yeah.
Was he Lambert? Was he Lambert signing? Or was he I can't remember.
Oh, let me look quickly. I don't know if he signed in the summer or not. I think, I'm trying to think. He must have been a Lambert signing like January or something. I'm going to quickly double check just for the listeners, because he came on loan 2019. Came on loan in January 2019. Made his debut as a second half sub against Accrington Stanley in the FA Cup. Yeah. How many goals did he score?
Right. I'm stuck with it. I don't think it's right. But...
I want to bring out these
many.
Okay. You ready, John?
I think I'm being too generous. I'm going for 7.
14, 10.
10.
Oh, Dan, you're so close, my friend. It's 9. It's 9 goals. Oh,
do I get a point?
You still get a point though. So it is going to be the tiebreaker is needed. This is exciting. This is actually exciting. Here we go.
High quality punditry here.
Oh, here we go. Hope everyone at home are just on the edge of their seats. And the final question is on this man who celebrates his birthday this week, and it is Tony Dinning. I think that's how you say it. Is it Dinning? Dinning?
Yeah.
Yeah, whatever. How many games did he play for Town during his loan spell from Wigan? He was on loan from Wigan in 2004, I think it was, or 2003.
At all.
Yeah, I don't think.
What sort of player is he? Midfielder or defender? Or
he's centre mid. Yeah.
I don't remember that at all.
So yeah, 2003-04 season, he came on loan. So Joe Royal signed him on loan.
Oh, right,
loan from Wigan. So it links up with a Wigan sort of connection as well, because we're playing Wigan, of course, on Easter Monday. Right. That's not Easter Monday game because it's Tuesday night. Still Sky.
I have no idea, so I'm just guessing.
Okay. So whoever gets closest does win, but if you get it bang on, then you win because you got it banged on. Here we go. Who's going to win it? Is it going to be Daz? Is it going to be John? Is it going to be Dan? We're going to do it all. We're going to do it all separately. So let's start with Dan first.
I have no idea, but I've gone for. Can you see that? 6.
6. Okay, John.
I had 6, but I crossed out and wrote 7.
Oh. When did you cross it out?
After before Dan showed his.
Hey! Okay.
Well, I didn't know, so I just went my lucky number 22.
Oh, yeah, it's not that
I've got
many.
no idea.
It's not that many. It is 9 games.
Oh, John.
9 games in all competitions. And John Watson has won. He won the Strike Invitational and he wins this week's Strike. Speech, John. How's it to win the Strike once again, beating good competitors in Dan and Dazza?
Well, I'm in esteemed company, but I think I've had a fluky off the shin winner there because that was a total guess. I hardly remember Tony Dinning. I mean, I think I probably remember David Flisher probably going on about Tony Dinning or Graham Harvey in one of his rants or something like that. But to be honest, I can't even remember what the guy looks like. No disrespect to him. Did he play for Wolves? I can't remember. Maybe Wolves or Birmingham. Or...
Yeah.
He played at Wolves briefly. Then when he left us, he went to Bristol City, Port Vale, Stockport. He also had a little loan spell. He was at Newcastle, and he had a loan spell in Sweden. Nice little fact there for you. There we go.
He reminds me of a slower version of Danny Sonner.
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus.
Which takes some doing.
He was a funny player, Danny Sonner, because he had something about him, but just wasn't quite good enough.
Yeah, vodka.
Yeah.
Lots of so many tales of Danny Sonner, but fair play to him.
Yeah.
Was he ahead? Okay. I'm learning lots today. Yeah.
Stories of George Burley finding him in a suit on the town square at like half cut and all kinds of things. He liked to booze, but he was from everything I've heard about him, it'd be amazing to be like a character to interview him.
Yeah. I think he's a model now or an actor. I know he was on Instagram briefly, and I saw there was like some modelling shots and stuff. So yeah. Watch his space. Hopefully we can maybe speak to Danny one day. Because he also was a cap for Northern Ireland, weren't he, and stuff like that as well. So he's played at the highest level, really.
He was a modern day footballer. He was a modern day footballer before his time. Do you know what I mean? He was like Instagram before Instagram was even an idea.
Yeah, pretty much. And as you said, John, as well, I think that's what we're hoping. As you said, a fluky win. I think you won because you just happy days. But I think that's what we're lacking as well. I think we're just lacking that bit of luck. Someone hitting off their shin or their arse, basically, just get the ball in that net.
Yeah, I mean, wouldn't we have loved Macaulay Bond to just have a couple that have gone off his shin or his arse or his kneecap or whatever, because that could have given him the confidence to maybe get a few the way he was at the beginning of the season. Because you compare the play that we saw, like Darren said earlier on, like that first 10, 15 games, he was like, he was just doing so well, wasn't he? You know, so it's like sometimes you just need that little bit of luck. You can have all the endeavour and all the kind of skill in the world, but sometimes you just need a rub of the green. And our strikers haven't had that. I think the team generally have got what we deserved, but we just haven't got the goals that maybe our play warranted.
Yeah, indeed. Well, let's segue into talking about a man who will be leaving the football club at the end of the season, and that is Lee O'Neill. Of course, he's got a mouthful of a title, Ipswich Town's General Manager of Football Operations, and of course had so many different roles when Marcus Evans was here. As been announced, he will be leaving the club. Of course, has been at the club for many, many years. I don't think it was a massive shock. I think since Mark Ashton's come in, I think he's been wanting to bring his own people in. We've seen Andy Rolls, Garrett Probert, like Luke Werner, and there's loads of other names I can mention. Dan, what was your feelings when you saw this news? And I think it wasn't probably a shock because a lot of the Marcus Evans team have gone because we've got new ownership and Mark Ashton's here wanting his own people.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't surprised. I think he had an incredibly difficult job. You know, if you think about jobs that you've been in with no leadership from the level above you, no direction from the level above you, and you're put in those situations where you have to front up people's errors, I think that, for me, described Lee O'Neill. He would be a very, very interesting person to interview at some stage because I'm sure he's got a lot of tales that he could probably talk about now he's not employed by Ipswich. And I saw him I sat at the FA Cup game at home to Oldham, and I, got the free seats around the ground, and I sat next to the director's box, and I saw him that day, and he just looked. I felt sorry for him. He looked depressed and a bit forlorn, but you could tell he was on the periphery. You had the Ashton and Rolls and Probert all together, and he was a few rows back, sitting on his own. He just looked a bit forlorn, a bit isolated. And I think the change was on the wall. And I mean, it was a farce, wasn't it, when he had to do that interview to the fans, saying it's business as normal. So I think he must have done it. He must have worked at a time. You talk about people who worked at the club under Evans, just the odd thing where they said it wasn't a particularly nice place to go to work, and everything was budget cutting and everything was stress and everything was pressure. And I think he was, unfortunately, the front man for a lot of that. And he sounds like, I don't know him or anything, but he sounds like he's a really good guy. So good luck to him. I hope he gets a decent job somewhere. And he sounds to me like his real forte and his strength is maybe an academy level. Yeah, I think, I'll feel sorry for the bloke. I'd love to hear some of his stories though one day.
Indeed. And Johnny, he's worked under a time where it has been difficult, definitely under COVID, and just seeing Ipswich Town playing Tier 3 football, we never thought that would ever happen. We played that back in the 50s, and we've been used to the Championship, Premier League days. But I think he's got to get props for some of the work he has done in the academy. Unfortunately, he was given so many different jobs, and I know a lot of Town fans, when that announcement happened, I think there was a lot of people giving him slack because of what he came out and said about the ownership and stuff. But I think he doesn't get the appreciation of what he probably had to go through. Yeah,
I think you're right, Ross. I think from what I know of him, and I can't profess I've ever, I don't know the guy, but he's always tried to go about things in a professional manner. I think he's probably, you look back and think he was probably doing the role of 3 or 4 people. Like certainly under the new regime, Lambert complained about the lack of infrastructure behind the scenes. And you look how many people, O'Leary, Ashton, Wahern, Rolls, Probert, there's 5 off the top of my head. And I think probably, Lee O'Neill was doing 3.5 of those 5 jobs. And I'm not being silly. If anybody does more than one job, you either got to be so much better than the person who was doing it beforehand, or you're only doing 50% of the job, and I've got no doubt he tried his hardest. And from what I've heard, he seems like a reasonable, a good guy. And I know people speak highly about the fact he was always, interested in the academy, always, that was his background, wasn't it? I didn't realise until I read today that his dad was a former Town player as well. So he's been associated to the club for a long, long time. Just doing his best in a difficult time, I think. So, let's just wish him well and move on, really. I also know he's been very supportive, and I'm sure you'll back me up on that, Ross, of the women's game as well.
Yeah.
Both the youth and the men's, but also and the academy, but also the women's game. So, he's a guy who wants the best for the future of the club, I think. So, yeah, let's give him a pat on the back, a shake of the hand, and say good luck, mate.
Yeah, he went all the way up to Newcastle for the FA Cup game when the Ipswich Town women's team played them, and of course won. He also went to the Plymouth game, and he travelled the country supporting a lot of the academy players as well. I remember him, saying he went all the way to see Tyrese at Swindon, then he went to the Plymouth game for the men on the Saturday, and then of course stayed and of course watched the women's game on the Sunday at Plymouth as well. So he's done all that. Daz, your thoughts on Lee O'Neill? And he's a local lad as well. I think I'm sure he's been proud to be working at the football club, and unfortunately he has got a bit of slack from Town fans because you don't always know the big picture or the whole picture of what's going on at the football club.
No, I mean, not really too much to add from what John and Dan said. It's under the 13 years of Marcus Evans' ownership, obviously Lee O'Neill was the guy in the club who was trying to bring things together, but someone who's been at the club a long time, and let's just wish him well. And I'm sure he'll pop up in a good job somewhere else. So good luck to him.
Indeed. And well, we'll segue into our next feature, and it has been the transfer rumours are starting, and the first man that has been linked away from the football club is Daz's main man, but now Christian Walton, of course, is pretty much first choice. But Vladimir Halanki, I would not be disappointed if he does go, because I won't have to say his name again, but I do like him. I think he's a decent goalkeeper. But Dan, he's been linked to a move possibly to Aberdeen. He's, of course, had a spell in Scotland with St Mirren previously. We're going to have a little debate about second choice goalkeepers and maybe the decision, would you let him go? And maybe what's your thoughts on just second choice goalkeepers as a whole in League One?
Must be a mad job to be a second choice goalkeeper, because it depends what kind of person you are. Because it's, you get people in jobs where they're quite happy to bob along, not being in the spotlight and picking up a decent wage. You don't get the pressure every week having to perform. And it's kind of almost like you just keep ticking along. And some people are okay with that and some people aren't. It must be a very strange job. And clearly when we signed him, he came from a step up with a good reputation. We were all excited about him. And when I look back at Hladky, he was probably the focal point for a lot of fans' ire in that start of the season. It seemed to me that, unfortunately, every little mistake he made was kind of fundamentally destructive to our results. Now, I know that's a life of a goalkeeper, but actually, when you look back at it in context, look at the defensive formation of the team that we had when Hladky was playing. Look at the lack of fitness. Look at the way we were dropping deep after 75 minutes. Look at the amount of pressure that we were inviting on ourselves. Funnily enough, with Hladky, his last game for us was a win and a clean sheet against Wycombe when Walton got COVID and he came in. And if you remember that, and we won, I think, 1-0, and he kept a clean sheet, and with about 2 minutes to go, a Wycombe lad blazed it over from 5 yards. That's the life of a goalkeeper in a lot of ways. The luck was on his side for that game. He didn't have a lot of luck. And when I look at it, and when I look at what McKenna's done with the team and the defensive organisation, like my nan's 99, and I reckon she could be a decent goalkeeper in this McKenna team, because we are so set up to restrict chances. We are so solid and fit. Walton is clearly an upgrade on Hladky. Clearly an upgrade, and everyone knows that. But I feel a bit sorry for Hladky. So when I kind of look at it, I also think there sometimes comes a period where Ipswich Town is a business. We have to protect our assets. I don't think we should just let him walk away unless he really to my earlier point, unless he's one of those characters where he wants to be playing every week, unless he's massively unsettled. It's a hard job to get a good second choice goalie. I think he's a decent enough second choice. I don't think we have anyone at a youth level that's ready to step up into the second choice. So even if he did go, we'd have to bring someone else in. And personally, I would like to see us protect our assets a little bit more. And I don't particularly want for them to walk away. And I don't think Hladky is the worst goalkeeper in the world. And I'd like to see him stay and really push Walton in training. And if he gets an injury or suspension, so be it. So it's a tough one, but I think when you look back at it, as I said, the way McKenna sets teams up, he had to do a lot. Hladky, he didn't do it brilliantly. I'm not defending him, but I think we need to put it into a bit of reflection. And I personally, I'd like to hold on to him. I'd like to see us fight for a little bit and hold on to him and say, look, you're part of a promotion charge next season. Your family's settled. You've only been here 9 months. You got a contract. Keep with us. I mean, people know better about the goalie position than me, but I don't think he's a worse second choice.
No. And I hope you're okay with this, John. I'm just going to skip over to Dazza first. He's the man who loves his goalies. I know he's his boy, Vlad Kavalanki. Oh, again, I'm butchering that completely. I'm
We've
sorry.
got another keeper, have we?
Yeah,
Who's he?
yeah.
You mean
Yeah,
Bradley?
it's another guy. But what's your thoughts on this, and your thoughts on second choice goalkeepers? Of course, it's now become a thing about third choice goalkeepers. You know, in the Premier League, there's a lot of like veteran English goalkeepers who are like 36, 37, sitting benches or even just warming up, and they're not even on the bench. But what's your take on Everton? They have two goalies on the bench. I've been seeing recently.
Oh wow. Yeah, well, it's like you say, this is the start of silly season now, and we started to hear rumours. He seems quite a quiet lad, so I can't imagine he's bitching and moaning and wants to play, which might be a bad thing actually. As a goalkeeper, you certainly have to have the confidence, a bit of arrogance, and that you are the best and no one can score past you. That's a kind of an important ingredient mentally for a goalkeeper. But yeah, the start of the season, I disagree with you slightly, Dan. He didn't make many mistakes. What unfortunately didn't happen was he didn't make any game-changing saves. When, like we've seen with Walton and we saw with Bart before him, there'll be a chance in the 90th minute and the keeper will pull off an amazing save to stop them from scoring. And Hladky just didn't make any saves, So I don't think it was that he made loads of mistakes. He was never brilliant, and that was disappointing because I was so excited. I'd never seen him play, but I'd seen the what's it called, Class of '92, where the Salford thing. I'd watched all that documentary, and he looked amazing. He helped him win trophies and helped him win promotions, and he looked a fantastic goalkeeper. So I couldn't believe it when we signed him. I thought, that's it, he'll be as good as Bart. But maybe he just needs a season to settle down. He'd be a great second choice keeper. I don't know him as a person, but he seems a quiet lad from what I've seen of him. So I don't think he's going to cause many dramas in the changing room. So, but then it just depends on what he wants to do. Does he want to play? He's used to playing. Harvey's been tweeting everyone about, is he going to go? We need a second choice goalkeeper. So yeah, I hope he stays. But yeah, Walton is clearly our number one. His injury record seems pretty solid. So I don't think whoever is reserve keeper is going to play that many games behind Walton. In terms of second choice goalkeeper, I'd be quite happy if for some reason we sell him and he goes. I'd be very open to just getting an older keeper in, like what when Kelvin Davis was the backup for Southampton, someone who's a quality keeper, already got one eye on coaching badges and all that. He's got to, have a good attitude in training, support the first choice keeper, and if he ever has to play, he's a quality keeper. So I don't know who's coming whose contracts are ending, but yeah, if Hladky does go for whatever reason, then someone like that would be great.
That could be a future video feature we could look into, doing some research on goalies we can bring in who've got experience. So watch out for that. Yeah, make a list. Stay tuned. John, I'll let you get your say on this, but also want to sort of segue into our next feature for the podcast. And Daz, you mentioned Harvey, and this is sort of been inspiration for this feature. He mentioned it on Twitter. It sort of started a nice little debate, which was basically which town player would you controversially let go in the summer? And of course, you have to have a really good, reasonable reason behind it as well. But John, your quick say on what the boys have just said, but also which player would you controversially let go, or you just feel maybe it's best for him just to move on?
Yeah, I mean, for me with Hladky, I think Walton's so far ahead has been our number one. Like Dan and Daz both say, it does depend on how much somebody wants him and how much he wants to go. If we're happy and he's settled, then there's no reason for him to go. I think somebody has to come in and try to tempt him. I think the perfect setup is to have your number one, which is our Walton, and then you have an experienced keeper, like Richard Wright was for Man City, sitting on the bench as a third choice or whatever. And then you have a good youngster coming through, and you have they can all push each other, and hopefully the mature one can bring the youngster on whilst kind of being a good backup. So I'm not really that fussed. I think Holy's gone, isn't he? Really, so I wouldn't be surprised if McKenna brings in a young player to kind of try to give a year training with the first team, but we'll see. I really, the jury's out. I was excited when we signed him. Like Darren, I thought he seemed to be a really high quality. So a bit sad it didn't quite go for him. But we've had quite a few players who it hasn't quite gone for this season. And that's my little segue to the next bit. We've had a few players who, have come in, and I thought long and hard about who we should say could be the player to show the door to. And in the thread that Harvey Sweet Welsh Prince has started, there's some interesting ones in there. And there's some that are kind of a little bit obvious. Some people said, let Matt Penny go and bring in somebody better at left wing back. Or, there's some interesting ones. People saying, for the right price, let Edmondson go. Well, for me, you want to build your team around the core that we have. And that's Walton in goal, Morsey in centre mid. And then your three centre halves have been probably our best, with Burns up there as our best three players. Donasian's had a season out of his skin. Wolfenden's come back under McKenna and been a touch of class. And Edmondson, for the first half of the season, was our best player, most solid player. I don't want any of them to go anywhere. So then my logic, and it's only my logic, is if we've got a good keeper, we've got some good centre halves, and we've got Morsey in the centre of the park, who I absolutely love. For me, we need a stronger centre forward. So whether it's controversial or not, I'm not quite sure, but some people love him, some people don't. I say get rid of James Norwood. Now, lots of people will say Norwood's still the best striker at our club. However, I think if we want to really compete at this level next year and do a better job than we have this year, we need to have a better striker than we have currently got at our club to take those chances, to be clinical and to be the main man. So my logic is, if we're getting rid of Norwood, we're bringing in somebody better. So therefore, I would let James Norwood go. I'm not against James Norwood as a person. I'm not against James Norwood as an Ipswich Town player. When he plays for us, I'll always get behind him. I just find him frustrating. And I think he's got something, like those dark arts, a little bit of something about him. But despite looking after himself and looking really physically good in the summer, he hasn't made the shirt his own this season. He had that purple patch in, was it November or December? And or was it even January? I can't remember. But it's, he hasn't scored many, has he? And I know he sometimes had to play on the left, sometimes had to play deeper. Or I just think it's time for James Norwood to probably go back to Tranmere or to go somewhere else. Don't wish him any harm at all. Don't wish him any bad. I want him to have a real successful couple of years at his next club. But I personally want a really top striker. So it's Norwood for me. And I guess then the next question is, do you keep Bonn as well? But I'll leave that for another debate.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll be bringing loads of different video features and different content on the out-of-contract players and all that sort of stuff, loan players, but we'll get onto that soon. Dan, is it okay to go over to you? I know you're deep in thought there, but what's your thoughts? Which Town player would you controversially let go, and good reason behind it?
It's a really interesting question. The word controversial for me means someone that would split opinion. I'm going to say something controversial. I'd let Macaulay Bodden leave today, go back to QPR. Done really well for us, but if I want to be controversial, I'd rather use the players on our books coming through rather than Macaulay Bodden for the last 4 games of the season. That might be a bit not very sentimental and a bit harsh, but controversial. But anyway, that's an abrupt decision for now, just on the basis that I wouldn't mind seeing some of the, giving Piggott or Tyrese Simpson a go. Controversially, in the summer, I mean, I looked at this and I just think He's a player who started off a bit slowly for us, but he's turned into a bit of a crowd favourite. He hasn't started 90 minutes. He hasn't completed 90 minutes under McKenna. He's 33. He's one of the highest wage earners. We got 3 or 4 players that can play in his position. It'd be Sonny Aluko. I don't know if you heard that.
Expand. I was waiting for you to expand. I was waiting for you to expand.
Oh, right. The Wi-Fi cut out. But I was just going to say, yeah, I mean, for me, he's on occasions he's been fantastic for us. And he can display a different level of class. But 33, he's on a good wage. I think, we've got 4 players potentially that could play in Aluko's position. We could have Cameron Humphreys coming through. I would personally think that I think it's time to say goodbye to Sonny Aluko.
I think his contract runs out in the summer anyway, doesn't it? So,
yeah, okay. So I wouldn't extend his contract.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I know a lot of Town fans that, as you said, he has become a fan favourite because he has made some fantastic appearances, but sometimes you can't be a bit sentimental on that sort of thing. Okay, he's had a good little period, but he is 33. I know he's still probably fit enough to play, but if he's not playing full 90 minutes, sometimes you may have to move on.
I mean, one thing I'll finally add to that is sometimes there's a desire for youth at football a lot, and possibly Aluko, I think McKenna's alluded to it a few times. He might well offer a lot on the training ground and behind the scenes, and he might be that kind of calming influence. So, McKenna knows more than anyone else. There might be a reason for him to kind of have that bit of experience, But I'm basing it on progression of players and stability of team. So I wouldn't be too disappointed to see Bond go now. I know that won't happen, and I wouldn't be surprised if we didn't extend Aluko's contract.
Okay, then. Well said as always. Dazza, over to you then. Chuck any names you fancy? Anybody you think some Town fans will be very, undecided about, but also probably won't lose sleep on?
Well, let's say if the question is a controversial release, then I would go with Lee Evans. He's
John's go what?
Yeah, he has had his moments, obviously, but he takes all the set pieces, and we never score from a set piece. His delivery is never that great, but he takes every corner, every free kick, everything, but we never score. He's very lightweight, and he likes to throw himself on the floor. If another midfielder comes along and puts a shoulder in, if you watch him away from the ball, he's constantly just throwing himself on the floor. A bit like who was that striker that went to Wigan? What's his name? Garner, who was just trying to get fouls all the time. And the Evans is like that, and that frustrates me with trying to exaggerate contact to get a free kick. So yeah, if you want to be kind of controversial, then I'm quite happy with him playing for Ipswich. But if you want to pick someone, then I'd go for Lee Evans. I think we can find a better, stronger player who's got a better set piece. That's definitely what I know. It's another topic, but we need a set piece taker in the summer.
I disagree with that, but I'll let John speak.
Yeah, I was just going to say, it's really good having this kind of discussion because we generally all have similar viewpoints on Ipswich Town. I genuinely was shocked that you said Lee Evans, but I think now that's the shock's kind of digested a little bit. He did disappoint me and frustrate me at times this season, and similar to my logic in if we were to get rid of Norwood or, as Dan said, Bon, that means we'll be bringing him better. If we were to get rid of Evans, that means McKenna's bringing in somebody to play alongside Morsey as a first team starter, because Evans and Morsey are probably the best 2 midfielders we've got at the club at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to get rid of Lee Evans, but if the question is a controversial name to get rid of, then I would go with Evans.
Yeah, I just mean that if we did go down that route, the bonus of that is that we'd be bringing in somebody who McKenna wants to play alongside Sam Morsey. Yeah. So that might not be such a bad thing. Yeah. I just think it's really interesting thinking about our squad, because clearly there needs to be a bigger level of stability this summer to last summer. But there are some players that you think are fringe players, and we've probably got about 8 players who are almost certainties to be in the top 14, if you like. You know, I mentioned the 3 centre halves. You know, we mentioned the keeper, Morsey and Burns. There's like 8 players there, whatever I've just named. The next batch are the ones you're talking about, and I can see an argument for keeping Bacchus, and you can see an argument for keeping Aluko. Like, I would hate to lose Chaplin, but I wouldn't be surprised if they cashed in on Chaplin. I just think he seems like a really good character. He's got involved with the Rainbow Tractors. He's got involved with the ambassadorial role and the foundation and all that. I think I would love for him to stay and be a linchpin for our team. And but I wouldn't be surprised with anything. You know, that's the reality. I just think we can't throw too many players out. We want to have a little bit of turnover, and McKenna needs to bring in his own people, doesn't he? He needs to bring in a few of the signings he wants for the way he wants to play. But I think it's going to be a fascinating summer, that's for sure.
Again,
I think you're sorry. Yeah, I think like Daz is right in that, because the Evans one would definitely split opinion, and that's why you said it, Daz. I can appreciate that. I think with Evans is that when him and Morsey were starting as a 2, and we were dominating at Portsmouth, and we were dominating at Wycombe, and we were dominating in that 6-0. When they are fit, they are, I'm convinced, one of the best League One centre midfield partnerships. And it's a real shame that, and I know that there's things that Evans can do better. I know that, but when he's fitting on song, Morsey and Evans are high class in this division. And I think it's such a naughty tackle that Evans took in injury time. That 3-0 win against Burton, it was like an unnecessary last minute nasty little tackle, and we've missed him. We've missed Evans a lot, and I'd love to see him and Morsey fit for a while at the start of the season, because I think they could be massive. And I think I tell you what, you wouldn't like to play against Morsey and Evans. You just wouldn't. Nor would as well. You just wouldn't want to face them. I mean, we need nasty bastards. We need it. We need tough nuts to get out of this division that can handle themselves and look after the team. And I think Evans has got a little bit about that.
Yeah, the one positive with Evans not playing is that we've seen a different side to Morsey, haven't we? Morsey going forward is not the Morsey we see when Evans is playing. So if there's someone a bit stronger next to Morsey, a bit like Backinson's trying to fill that role. Unless we can clone him, unless we can clone Morsey in the summer. I mean, can you imagine? I mean, the dream obviously is, can you imagine if I can't remember names now. Who's the blonde lad we sold to Swansea?
Downs.
Can you imagine?
Wow. Who's the blonde lad we sold to Swansea?
Yeah.
Wow.
His name disappeared from my brain. That's what happens when you get old, Ross. Can you imagine Downs and Morsey as a central midfield pair?
Oh my God, yeah.
With all the attacking stuff ahead of them, and then them two just controlling midfield.
Yeah, absolutely.
Imagine we got Crooks to play as the number 10 with Morsey and Downs, though. I mean, a very different style number 10 to the way we've been playing. But imagine Morsey and Crooks and Downs in the same team. Then you thought about 3 real people who wouldn't go missing in games.
The word on Downs is that Palace are heavily back in for him, because
he's might get some cash then.
Well, I mean, we might get a little flutter on that, but if you look at, he's the most accurate passer in the Championship.
I saw that. Yeah,
and they love him at Swansea. So I mean, so that could benefit Ipswich, and he could be playing at the top level. Who knows? Especially Swansea aren't really going anywhere. But you're right though. Yeah, Morsey and Downs. I wouldn't fancy that.
I'm moist thinking about that.
But I do, yeah. I feel, and I just think, and I think, you know, you got your questions lined up, but it's like, would you sign Backinson? Because I probably would.
Yeah,
Controversial, but I don't know. I just think you know, you need 3 decent central midfielders. You need 3.
Yeah.
So
I think,
you know.
yeah, I think the other controversial players would you let go, like Raheem Harper and, you know, Carl Edwards. They were unreal signings in the summer, but unfortunately they just haven't done it. Raheem Harper is currently at Crewe, not playing much. They've just got relegated. Carl Edwards is not even making squads really.
I mean, the other name I came up with was Joe Pigott. I mean, I'm sporting his hairstyle at the minute. So, but yeah, Joe Pigott, it's not quite worked, has it? You know, 20 goals a season, man. So obviously, I know he's had some personal issues during the season, and maybe new season, new kit, off we go, start again, or maybe he just needs a change. But I'm not sure what Joe Pigott is, because he's not a big, strong target man. He's not quick like Caden Jackson, so he's not someone who plays on the shoulder. So it's kind of hard to see. He doesn't hold the ball up well and play with his back to goal. It's kind of hard to see exactly what his strength is, you know. So, but yeah, maybe we'll see a different Joe Pigott next season.
I think it'd be good to get him a shot. No, John, do you think?
No, let's have a clear out of the forwards. Let's say bye to Norwood. Let's loan Pigott out for the full season if we can't get him off our books. I wouldn't be opposed to Bond staying with Jackson as backup to whoever we sign, but I'm not necessarily even on that bus fully. For me, the major work we need to do is get a left wing back and get a centre forward, and then hopefully another centre forward to back them up. For me, clearly I always want any Ipswich Town player to do well for Ipswich Town, but you know, Pigott hasn't done it. He's had a few chances. Yeah, he's had a tough year. I understand that. Bond's had some personal issues. Norwood has had some personal issues. That is life, though. You know, many of us will have had personal issues. You know, but my performance at work isn't judged on my personal issues. It's judged on my performance. So, you know, I haven't seen enough from Pigott to say give him the last 4 games, because I understand what people mean when they say don't play our loan players. Let's play our players who are going to be with us. I get that. But actually, I don't think McKenna's seen enough from Pigott either to warrant giving him the 4. I'd rather see Simpson come off the bench than Pigott come off the bench. You know? So it's going to be a really interesting one, because ultimately McKenna, who did he bring in? He brought in Backinson, is that it? I can't think of anybody else.
Thompson.
Yeah, but you know, he clearly didn't fancy Coulson when he went, because he went straight into the Peterborough side, straight in the FA Cup. I watched him play. That was a funny one, because you know, but he obviously just didn't fancy his fitness or whatever. But he hasn't had a chance to bring in the people he will want, and the way we played. Clearly, he's got an established pattern of play and that kind of thing. But he might be going, right, this is this type of player we want. And we don't know that, because he's not going to he's not going to throw the players under the bus like Paul Lambert did with some of the youngsters, or like Cook would do, or whatever. He's going to wait till the end of the season, then he's going to have his chance to shape the squad. And I think it's going to be really interesting, because you never know. We might not even play with a back 3 next year. It might be back to a back 4. Because he might think, no, I want these. These are the players I want. You know, he's obviously decided what the best formation and the best structure with what we've got. But I don't think, you know, he was joking about saying we play like more of a 4.5 than we do as a 4 or a 5 at the back. And
we're lopsided, aren't we?
Yeah, but he might go, actually, I don't want to play like that. I just want to get the right personnel. So. Yeah, I'm sure the recruitment team and the recruitment room will be getting used, and Ashton will be having to work hard again. But you know, I know it's silly season and it's a bit nonsense at times, but it's also exciting, isn't it? Because you start thinking, oh, I wonder what's going to happen with this. Who's going to? and you can't help but get carried away with it. I don't want it to be 19 players, but I wouldn't be surprised. Like, I wouldn't be adverse to Backinson staying, but if he didn't, that's because McKenna's found somebody better he wants. So
yeah,
I'm basically happy to go with what like, he's got my blessing to do what he wants, as if he needs that. You know what I mean? Though I trust him, I like him. He's doing a really good job. So I'm delighted to kind of see where he takes us this summer.
Approved by the King of the North.
I also it's going to be an interesting subplot will be McKenna's first ever proper transfer window ever. We've seen he's a great coach. He's a good tactician. What's he like picking a player? And based on the other thing, I mean, you would think he'll have impeccable contacts, and the word's going to go out. Look what's going on at Ipswich. Look at the way McKenna's doing that we have to hope that that's the kind of thing that's going round at the moment, because the other massive benefit for us, if you wanted to be ultra positive, is we at least knowing now that we will be in League One next season. My pre-season starts now. We can be planning for next season now. So we're getting a bit of a head start in some ways. Who knows? But I think you're right. It will be really, really interesting to see. And it's a really good point. You never know. We might change from 3 at the back. So who knows?
Yeah, I think it's going to be an exciting summer. And of course, it's been a year since Game Changer has been involved and Mark Ashton's been involved in terms of scouting. I'm sure they've now got everything sort of set up for this summer in terms of players they want. Kieran McKenna's been in the job will be in the job for 6-7 months by then as well when the window opens. So he's at a time to talk about targets and stuff. So yeah, get ready. It's going to be another roller coaster of a summer, I feel. It won't be 19 players, but I'm sure there'll be a lot of players leaving and a few players coming in. But it should be interesting. Well, let's segue in nicely to the Easter weekend games. One, of course, is on Tuesday, so Easter Monday game is no more. But yeah, we head to Rotherham on Saturday, live on Sky, and then we're at home against Wigan on Tuesday night. Sky always ruins it for us, don't they? Easter weekend, it was always looking forward to Good Friday, Easter Monday, but we can't moan too much about it because it is what it is. Dan, over to you. Your thoughts on these two games against the heavyweights of League One. Rotherham, their form is horrendous at the moment, but I'm sure they're looking to get back to winning ways after I think they've only one win in the last 7 games, 3 straight defeats. They got beaten pretty heavily on Tuesday night, losing 3-0 against Pompey at Fratton Park. But how are you feeling going into these two games?
I think the bigger picture says to me that I would much rather be playing teams like Rotherham and Wigan now, because I think it's good for our players' development. It's good for McKenna, and it's good to send out a message and good to see where we are. So I think that's a positive. I think it's exciting that we've got these 2 teams, and good that we're on the box. Have we been on the box under McKenna? Don't think we have. I think it's the first time people will have seen a McKenna team on the TV. When I look at the games individually, when Rotherham beat us 2-0 earlier this season at Portman Road, they weren't. What they were was a complete opposite of a Cook team in that they were super athletic and they ran for 95 minutes and they were a team. They weren't particularly a brilliant team. The fact was they were a team, and they beat us 2-0 and they got the cigars and the slippers on, and it was pretty easy. They're obviously in a very, very different place now. I mean, they're in free fall. Warren is under pressure. They picked up some injuries last night at Pompey. They were home and host not long ago. And I remember seeing them beat Sheffield Wednesday, and they'd let in 5 away goals all season, and they went to Hillsborough and they won 2-0. And it's like they're up, and something has happened there. And the one thing about Saturday is the pressure is all on them. Like, they really are under pressure. We technically could go there and play pressure free. I don't think we're on the beach for all the reasons I've said before. I'll be honest with you, being an Ipswich fan, I've got enough mental scars over the years that if you're out of form and you're on Sky along come Ipswich, and I wouldn't be surprised if they shithouse an injury time winner and beat us 1-0 just because it's us on the telly. And I hope to God I am wrong. I really would love Saturday to be that game where we do score 2 goals and get our noses ahead. I'm guilty maybe of living in the past, but those scars don't take a short time to heal. So I'm going to, just on the basis that Rotherham have to win. They have to win. When Plymouth came to our place and they were on that brilliant run, we had to win, and we did. I think Rotherham might nick it, unfortunately. I think Wigan might be a bit different. When I look at the Wigan game, potentially Wigan could come to Portman Road and seal promotion. Which, being cynical, might double their away support to about 400, but that's being a bit out of order. But I think Wigan will be a very different game. We went up there and drew 1-1 under McGreal, and I've actually, under the lights, penultimate home game, lose 1-0 to Rotherham, beat Wigan 2-1. That's what I'm reckoning. And then MK Dons will be supporting us this Easter, though, won't they?
Yeah, they will be. Yeah,
once again, we don't care about them; we care about us. But one defeat, 1 win, not the end of the world.
Not at all. And John, a local game for you in Yorkshire. You're looking forward to that one. Back at watching the town, but we're going to make a big statement in terms of if we can get some results against these 2 ties.
Yeah, it's just impossible to call for me, Ross. I'm really looking forward to it. I haven't been to as many games recently as I would like to have been. And I'm going to 2 in a row, which is always nice. You feel like you get just to know the team that little bit more again. I wouldn't be surprised if we win on Saturday, but then I wouldn't be surprised if we get beaten at home on Tuesday night. But I kind of call it. I can see. I agree with everything Dan said about the build up to the game, in the sense of it's Rotherham who are under pressure to perform. But how many times have we gone into games thinking all we need to do is turn up and give a good account of ourselves, and we just don't do that when we're in front of the Sky cameras? Or would it be surprising if Rotherham suddenly find their form and tonk us 4-1? I can't see it happening, but could it? I don't know. I'm going to go for it. I'm going to go for a 2-1 Ipswich on Saturday, and then a 2-1 Wigan on Tuesday night. I'm normally really optimistic. If I say we're going to get beat one of them, then I hope I'm wrong. I really do. I would love to come away with 6 fat points. But my record of seeing victories this season isn't as good as it should be. I'm like an Ipswich striker, I think. So it's a big game, though, isn't it? Rotherham are desperate to get back on winning ways, and if we start well and took an early chance, or just perform like we know we can, we could. I'm not saying should. We could get a result. So I am hopeful. I'm going to have money on Sammy Morsey again because he's done me proud. I was very pleased. I had a couple of weeks ago. I had him on first goal scorer, last goal scorer, and anytime goal scorer, and we won 1-0. So Sammy Morsey was my particular hero that game. So let's hope he can score. To be fair, I don't care who scores. Let's just. I would love to beat Rotherham because they're a hard team. Usually they're really physical and fit and organised and powerful and athletic, and they do some of the things that traditionally Ipswich don't do. They out fight us, and I don't mean in a nasty way, in a unfair way, but they often, bully's not the right word because they're fair with it. They just grind out results traditionally. That's why they are where they are so often. When they're in League One, they go back up, don't they? So yeah, I'm going to go for a 2-1 victory on Saturday, and and then a 2-1 loss on Tuesday. I never predict losses, do I? I always go 4-1 Ipswich.
And Dazza, we're going to need to revenge, of course, Rotherham, because they bossed us at our place early in the season at Portland Road. And also the Wigan game is going to be a lot of subplots because Will Keane will be playing for Wigan. Guion Edwards will be making his return, my former boy. That gag is now very much gone. I'm more on a different train now. But how are you feeling going to these two games over Easter?
Yeah, I mean, I'm worried about playing Rotherham. But Dan makes a really good point about the pressure, and they have to win it. They have to win it. They were top of the league, cruising along, and then I think one win in 8, I think it is, and getting pummeled by teams a lot lower in the league. So this is a game they'll want to put right and want to win. And obviously our record on Sky Sports, we don't need to keep talking about that because it's terrible. So, but maybe the pressure, that they might choke. We play with a bit of freedom, and come away with a win. I mean, I'm expecting a loss just because we're on Sky. But who knows? Who knows? We'll see. We'll see. I mean, if they lose that game, if we beat Rotherham, they'll be, what the hell are Rotherham going to think? They'll be in the playoffs probably because I think MK Dons will be looking to second, and then going on to Wigan. As Dan mentioned, looking at the points in the table, if Wigan win on Saturday, and Rotherham don't beat us, then the game on Tuesday then becomes Wigan's promotion, securing game. So again, we have nothing to play for other than their places for next season, and they could be needing a point or 3 points to get some promoted. So they're a good team. I mean, I made a sort of a note here that at the start of this season, Paul Cook was the master and Liam Richardson was his understudy. Paul Cook is now managing Chesterfield and taking them down the league, and Liam Richardson is just about to win League One. So a real turnaround in the fortunes of those two men. And good luck to Liam Richardson. Seems like a good guy, and Wigan are certainly a good team. So I'd take 2 draws right now. At this point, it's more about performances. I'd love to. McKenna in his interview after Shrewsbury got asked about Elgin Baggott and if that means that Elgin's going to come in. I think McKenna away to Rotherham is probably the last game he'd want Baggott to make it. I don't know if it's his debut, but certainly throw him straight in there, especially against the type of team that Rotherham are. If it was a different type of team with different types of strikers, it's a tough game for him to make a debut. So he might protect him. He might be being a bit smart and saying, and not just hold him back, which then means we need to play a different shape unless Backinson drops in to the back 3. But then we could see a back 4. Who knows? Who knows? But it's it'd be odd seeing us on telly again. It's always a nervy thing when the Sky cameras are there and all the it's not Kelly Dalglish, is it? What's her name?
Kelly Cates.
Yeah.
When they're all there and they're all on the touchline doing the interviews and all that sort of stuff. And I
don't think we'll be getting them though. I don't think we'll be getting them. They'll be doing another game. I think we get the normal League One pundits probably. I think Scott Minto. Is it Scott Minto? Is it?
Scott Minto is the co-host, isn't he, or the host? And then
Don Goodman.
If
McKenna wins on the Sky, I am convinced he is King Midas. If he can break the Sky jinx, and I'll tell you what, Sky will probably want Elkin Baggott to play, or Bilbo Baggott, as I've already called him. So I tell you what, if he plays, you'll probably get about 40 million people tuning in from Indonesia on a Saturday. I mean, they'll be like, because he's following over there is off the charts, isn't it? So
yeah.
It'd be
I think it's
definitely
a player, and we've seen like with Wolfie, and maybe we'll see with Ndaba next season. Wolfie after his loan at Swindon came back a totally different player and was class. Ndaba might come back and do the same thing, and Maybe Elgin needs a loan out in proper men's football, because under 23s is very nice, isn't it? There's not too many nasty challenges going on, and 6'4" strikers to play against in under 23s. But he certainly looks definitely a big asset for the club. So, I think all of us would love to see him play, but maybe Kenner will just protect him in that type of game. You're not throwing him in. We'll see.
I've got a feeling that he'll play Thompson in the back three and play Penny at left wing back.
I think it's a disaster.
I'm not saying it's the right thing, but I've got a feeling he'll do it.
Yeah, well, that's how they equalise, because Thompson I don't know what's going on. I don't know if he's got some. Every time I see him, he gets shorter, and I've seen him. I'm sure he's got shorter since his debut at Sheffield Wednesday, because I'm not even sure he's over 5 foot now. He's got so small. And that goal against Shrewsbury, obviously he gets put in the back three, doesn't get anywhere close to winning the header, challenges but doesn't get close, and then obviously the guy smashes it in from 30 yards. And actually that was a nice bit of shithousery by McKenna in the interview afterwards. He's like, the best goal of his life, or a once in a career goal or something. Really kind of, that's to take away from the guy's skill or whatever. That was, some freakish goal.
Daz makes a good point though. It's like you can't get more big lump physical than Michael Smith, even though he couldn't hit a cow's arse with a banjo at the moment. Apparently he's like so out of form, it's untrue. However, I personally think they probably will play Baggott purely because I take Daz's point, but I just think Thompson as a centre back scares the life out of me. And I'm not sure. I have a feeling Thompson, he's done all right, Thompson. I think he's blotted his copybook a bit. He's had a couple of moments recently where he's lost his rag, I've noticed, Thompson. I think he's quite a fiery lad. And I think, Pompey against Cowley, and then he was a bit chopsy in the game against Cambridge. And I think that's why he was dropped for the game at Shrewsbury. And I think maybe it's a massive ask for Baggott to go up. But
yeah, big ask. I'd love to see him play. I'm sure.
Wow, him and Wolfenden together. Just imagine if those two finish this, have a good game. That's something to look forward to, isn't it?
Yeah.
I guess the other option is he drops somebody like Backinson. I presume Evans is still nowhere near fit, but
he's training, isn't he now? I think he's training.
Yeah.
Don't think he's back yet. Yeah.
It's impossible to call, isn't it? It's the worst possible timing to have one of your three centre halves out when you've already got Edmondson out, and you're missing, because Evans and Morsey, one of them. Well, Evans could play in the back three, you think, because of his size, if he needed to, at a push with Backinson in front of him. But you wouldn't. It's just a funny old time to guess what the formation is going to be, and is he going to start going, right, I'm not going to play that lone player, I'm not going to play that player, I'm going to give this person a chance. He clearly wants to balance getting good performances against good sides with, trying to put out the best team but he has to have one eye on next season as well. You've got to use.
Yeah, but I think that's what he'll use pre-season for. From what I think, those comments after or before Shrewsbury, I think it's quite clear he's not looking. He wants to win every game and just put the best team out to win and get points. And I don't think it was. McCarthy was probably good like that, wasn't he? In the last game or two of the season, he would throw a load of youngsters in. I really don't think McKenna's going to do that. I'd love to see it. Certainly, there's a lot of kerfuffle about Humphreys over the last few weeks, and obviously Simpson is on everyone's lips. But I just don't think we'll see it. I don't think we'll see it this season. And then throw them all in pre-season. Let's see how they get on. And pre-season. That's exciting, isn't it? Oh, come on.
Fixtures, release date, and all that.
Yeah, can't wait.
It's like we've still got 4 games, Daz. We've still got 4 games to look forward to. This season. But no, it's been another fantastic pod, and I will go over to all of you. Dan, any other business you'd like to add before we wrap up?
No, I've talked enough. It's been a pleasure being back, and come on, you Blues.
Indeed, John. Over to you.
I look forward to seeing you and all the Travelling Blue Army on Saturday, and I look forward to coming down on Tuesday and catching up with as many people as I can and having a good my last 2 games of the season. I'm going to be on the beach early. So, yeah, thanks for having me on, Ross. Always a pleasure. Good to see you guys.
Indeed. And Dazza, over to you to wrap it up.
Well, just safe travels to everyone heading up the A1 to Rotherham on Saturday. I hope there's no Easter weekend traffic. And let's hope for some good performances and something to sing about.
I've just looked at the time. We've literally played a full 90 minutes of football. So hopefully this has been as entertaining as Saturday against Rotherham. Hopefully we do get all the 3 points. Hope you've enjoyed as ever.
No one's going to have got to this point. They'll have switched off by now.
Well done if you've got this far.
Yeah, well done. And if you are listening on your way up to Rotherham, hope you've enjoyed us chatting and Dazza saying, who's that blonde guy that we let go in the sun? That is probably the best quote on the podcast. Flynn Dow's Dazza.
That is embarrassing. That is embarrassing.
We signed 19 players in the summer, so it is, and we let go 20 players, so it is trying to remember the certain players. But yeah, it's been good that he's been doing well at Swansea. And of course, we've got to shout out our sponsors at manscaped.com. I should have maybe said this earlier in the podcast because we are now an hour and 27 minutes in. But of course, if you want to get all your Manscaped needs, use the code KOA. You get 20% off and free delivery. Of course, we'll be there on Saturday. You'll get all the stuff on the website. And of course, game day and Andy and Stu react. Actually, Andy's not there, so it'll just be Stu chatting. I don't know if he'll get me to get involved or we may just find someone random to speak to. But it is what it is. But I hope you've enjoyed the podcast as ever. If you want to get involved, and if you are still listening, get in contact with me at Ross Media UK to get involved in future podcasts. But bye for now, as my light has made me very bright. If you're watching on video, I'm looking very bright. Anyway, goodbye, guys. Thanks once again for listening.